Hello there. Welcome into a Wednesday edition of the show. So glad to have you, whether you're listening on your radio, streaming the show online at extrasports1300.com, or you've downloaded the Extra Sports 1300 app to do your listening. And that app, of course, is sponsored by the fine folks at Diversus Health, Mental Health, and Well-Being for all. Truly a veritable cornucopia of sports topics await you, and I'd love to get your thoughts on the day's topics. You could call or text into the show at 719-247-1313, or you could find me on Twitter at Gingerly Tweets. I had somebody mention this to me today that maybe I spent a little bit too much time pondering the new Sean Payton algorithm for quarterback excellence. In fairness, it is kind of my job. But I was thinking about this thing. And if you missed it yesterday, or you did not read the ESPN.com article from Seth Wickersham, Sean Payton has created an algorithm, a formula, where he basically takes fumbles per drop back, interceptions per drop back, and sacks per drop back, adds them up, comes up with the score, and the lower the score, the better when he's evaluating quarterbacks. Supposedly, Patrick Mahomes had a very good score, and Bo Nix has an even better one. Because his big kick, and he talked about this a lot last year, and I think rightly we all pointed at Russell Wilson and went, that's why he didn't like Russell Wilson. He started to take sacks off of the shoulders of offensive linemen. He says it's a quarterback stat, and that's the big thing. He doesn't want his quarterbacks to take sacks. And no coach wants their quarterback to throw picks or fumble the football either. So basically, Sean Payton just wants to find a way to figure out who makes bad things happen less at the quarterback position. That's essentially what he's trying to figure out. And Bo Nix, through the course of his college career, especially when he got to Oregon, did a very good job of that. But what he's doing here, and I think it's important to point this out, given what I have seen following this Seth Wickersham piece on ESPN.com. What Sean Payton is doing isn't necessarily cracking the code when it comes to quarterback evaluation. Okay, he's not. This isn't the football version of Moneyball here that he has stumbled upon. What he has done can more accurately be compared to what you do if you are on a dating app. And if you're on a dating app, think about when you set up your profile. After you try to cobble together, and then maybe this is just my experience, you try to cobble together 2 or 3 decent pictures to throw up there, and then you figure out what, earth-shattering thing you're going to say in your bio to really hook in all these potential matches. But once you get to the next part, what do you put in? Age range. You put in how far from where you live are you willing to try and find a match? Whether you are okay with the person having children, whether you're okay with them having been married before, so on and so forth. Depending on the app, it gets more in depth than that. But those are usually the few categories that you fill out. The question becomes, and I'm sure if you're on a dating app, you've asked yourself this. Is what I am looking for actually giving me the best opportunity to find love? Are these things that I'm putting in going to guarantee that we will date, we will marry, we will grow old together? And the answer is no. You're just trying to get off to a good start, right? You're just trying to find people that you are attracted to or have traits that you are attracted to. There's so much more that goes into actually having a relationship, right? So that's all Sean Payton is doing. This is his version of a dating app. It's a quarterback app. And the first thing that he wants to put in is not, definitely not someone with kids or definitely someone who doesn't have to, hasn't been married before or whatever. He's saying, I want somebody that doesn't throw interceptions, fumble the ball, or get sacked. That's what I want, first and foremost. If somebody has a propensity to do any one of those three things, I'm going to swipe right, left, right. I don't know. I'm not interested. Whatever the action is to signify that on the dating apps. He's identifying what he's attracted to in a quarterback. He wants his quarterback to be able to think on their feet, be decisive, which are great qualities in a quarterback. But it doesn't mean the quarterback with those qualities is guaranteed to work out. To wit, I tweaked the algorithm a little bit. I don't think so much so that I'm going to get a completely different set of results. But one thing that bothered me about it was the fact that he took fumbles per drop back, interceptions per drop back, and sacks per drop back, and then added them up. Why do you need to do that? Just add up sacks, fumbles, interceptions, and then divide it by the total number of dropbacks. I don't think I got a completely different result here. Because I'm still essentially looking for the same thing. The quarterbacks that minimize the damage caused by those three things. And actually, by my adjusted algorithm, Bo Nix scored even better than he did with Sean Payton. In fact, I took the last 10 years of first-round quarterbacks and put them all through this mathematical ringer. And not only did Bo Nix score well, he was the best at doing what Sean Payton doesn't wants his quarterbacks to do, minimize those things. He was the best. Better than Mahomes, better than Daniels, better than Stroud, go on down the list, better than everybody. Which is great news. But then I looked closer. Here's the top 5 players when it comes to minimizing those things in college over the last 10 years. Bo Nix, Bryce Young, Mitch Trubisky, Trevor Lawrence, and Michael Penix. Conversely, here are the 5 worst first-round quarterbacks through this algorithm. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Cam Ward, Joe Burrow, and Deshaun Watson. Which group would you rather have? I would take the second one. Considering that 3 of the best quarterbacks on planet Earth are in that group. But even if my answers are slightly different than Sean Payton, even though we're still in search of the same thing, you don't even need an algorithm to tell you what was said about Lamar Jackson coming out of college. One former general manager in particular thought he shouldn't even be a quarterback in the NFL. Josh Allen was considered incredibly raw as a prospect, wildly inaccurate, didn't play a high level of competition, yet he still ranked poorly on this list. And Joe Burrow, even though he went number one overall, what was the knock on him? Well, threw the ball into harm's way a little bit. Maybe he was a Johnny-come-lately in many ways because he transferred from Ohio State. But the point is, you don't need an algorithm to tell you that there are a lot of things about Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen that coaches, including Sean Payton, probably didn't like. But fast forward till now, and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are the two best quarterbacks not named Patrick Mahomes in the National Football League. So Sean Payton isn't actually giving the be-all, end-all predictor of success. He's just saying, this is what I want my quarterback to have. I'll start there. Which is fine, because it's like everything else he's doing with the Denver Broncos. He's doing it his way. I don't care where I take Bo Nix. I don't care who I cut, and that might upset the fan base. I don't care who I fire, who I bring in. I'm doing this my way. And there's something to be said for that. But getting back to the dating app metaphor, what Sean Payton is doing, he's looking for the quarterback equivalent of an accountant that doesn't like to go out. He wants safe, predictable, responsible. The problem is that many of the best quarterbacks in the league are adventurous. They're risk takers. They push the boundaries of what we thought quarterbacking was. And yes, sometimes it costs them. Even to this day, it's cost Lamar Jackson the way he plays. But how many quarterbacks are you going to take over him if you were starting a franchise tomorrow? But some of this behavior, some of this risk-taking actually allows them to make plays that win football games and has helped make them some of the best quarterbacks in the league. And the other part of it, too, is that they have these great physical tools that allow them, that kind of give way to some of this. And it's why Lamar Jackson can make defensive players look like they're standing still. And Josh Allen can throw the ball 100 miles an hour and also run over you like a Mack truck. And Joe Burrow, because it has this bordering on irrational confidence that no matter what part of the game or whatever throw he needs to make, he can do it. And it gets all of them in trouble at some points. But it also is what makes them great. So ultimately, what is going to tell the tale here on Sean Payton's algorithm? Can somebody who's safe, who is all about limiting mistakes, being predictable, go up against some of these more unpredictable, more cavalier risk-taking quarterbacks and win? Because he's going to have to go through them at some point. And that's what the question is right now. Is Sean Payton going to allow Bo Nix to do some things that may result in an interception, a fumble, a sack, for the sake of trying to extend a play or make a play happen in a big game? Last year, we did not see that. Going against Lamar, going against Josh Allen, going against Joe Burrow. In any really close game, Broncos always came out on the short end. And a big reason why was in his rookie year, Sean Payton wanted to have complete control of Bo Nix, which is fine. All of this is okay. But what I'm talking about is this year, if now the words Super Bowl are being thrown around, Bo Nix is going to have to be allowed to be more of a risk taker. Sean Payton's not going to be able to micromanage Bo Nix to a Super Bowl. And if he thinks that, I think he's wrong. The way to win, we always talk about the blueprint, right? How do you win in today's NFL? Have these unbelievably athletically gifted quarterbacks that make these game-winning plays. But the only way they make those game-winning plays is if they are allowed to do it within the offense. These guys, they're improvisational performers. There's jazz musicians, freestyle rappers. That's what the best quarterbacks in the league are. There is a plan. It's not to say that there isn't a play called. It's not playground stuff. But they have the freedom to torch the plan and just wing it. And that's the question I have with Bo Nix when it comes to, is he truly going to be one of the 4 or 5 best quarterbacks in the league that Sean Payton says he will be? If he will be a good enough quarterback for the Broncos to win a Super Bowl, as Sean Payton believes that he is. That's what we need to see this year, next year, and moving forward. Clearly, he processes things well. Clearly, he learns well. Clearly, he is risk adverse. And that has gotten the Denver Broncos to this point. It's not going to get them to the next level. It's just not. Not in the AFC. Not with Mahomes and Allen and Lamar. Bo Nix is going to have to be allowed to take risks. Will Sean Payton allow him to do it? Because his algorithm is very good at finding a quarterback he likes, but it does not hold up as predictive to success in today's NFL. Because some of the quarterbacks that were the worst at this in college are some of the best players in the NFL right now. 719-247-1313. Just getting going on this Wednesday edition of the show. Coming up next, ESPN doing a lot of work with both the NFL and WWE. What does it mean for you, the consumer, and you, the fan? We'll get into that next here on Extra Sports 1300. So everything's official now. ESPN doing a lot of work. They are taking on, they are entering into an agreement with the National Football League, which will basically give ESPN NFL Network and NFL Red Zone. And then in a separate deal, they have come to an agreement with the WWE to be able to televise one way or another the premium events, what we would refer to as pay-per-views, right? WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, those are, I'm always going to call them pay-per-views. Now they call them like premium events or something like that because you don't necessarily have to pay for each one. So setting aside some of the angst that I may have or that others may have in when it comes to, what this means for the quality. This is another quality sports product in NFL Red Zone in addition to Inside the NBA. And maybe you feel this way if you're a WWE fan, that the way they do it is very good and you worry because you don't like the way ESPN produces things, that maybe they're going to affect negatively the broadcast of these premium wrestling events. Setting that aside, because I think that is a little bit of a worry, especially when ESPN is paying so much money and putting so much behind these products. They're going to try and find every way to use them to prop up their other products, to make the most money possible, which is absolutely their right. But it does make you worry because there's so much stuff that ESPN produces now that is not great. But setting that aside, and also setting aside, I think, the very real concern that Mike Florio has pointed out of Pro Football Talk, that now because the NFL gets a 10% stake in ESPN, how does that impact the reporting that ESPN will do on the NFL? But that's all stuff that's a little inside baseball, so to speak, in the weeds, bringing in journalistic integrity and all that kind of stuff. Not to say it's not important. I care very much about it, and maybe you do. But it's not mass appeal, right? It's not what most people care about. So what does this mean for you as a consumer? Setting aside the quality of the product, how are you going to pay for this? Where are you going to get it? That's what I want to bring to the table today. So all of this is in an effort to push ESPN's direct-to-consumer app, right? So everything that ESPN has under the sun, it's like the Lion King thing, everything that the light touches, everything that ESPN touches is going to be on this new app. Except they haven't been completely clear about whether it's going to be available if Red Zone is going to be available. To me, they would be silly to, when they lose people every Sunday to go to, Sunday Ticket or CBS or Fox to watch NFL games or to Red Zone. They're losing all of these people to the point that, have you ever watched ESPN on a Sunday afternoon? It's like they're on autopilot. They know nobody's watching. So they would be silly not to put Red Zone, in my opinion, on ESPN. But because the NFL retains streaming rights to Red Zone, will this be on the app? That is the big, I think, to this point, unanswered question. And we got a year. Inside the NBA is coming to ESPN this season. Red Zone, we're looking at next year. So however you consume the NFL, whatever packages that you currently have to be able to watch your favorite team, everything remains the same. It's next year where you're going to have to figure some things out. And the thing that I want figured out the most is where's Red Zone going to be? Because right now, I pay for, I have Fubo. That's what I have. So I get ESPN. I get Altitude. I get anything else that I could possibly want. Or I shouldn't say that because I basically have every streaming platform known to man. And I don't need all of them, but I have all of them. But I do have I have cable, quote unquote, ESPN. So if Red Zone's going to be on there, that's great. I'm pumped about that. Just let Scott Hansen do his thing and stay out of his way. That's what I worry about. So I don't need the app. The way I'm looking at it, I don't need the ESPN app. But if you are cutting the cord, and you know by cutting the cord in the past means you're going to lose ESPN, now you don't have to. And that's why they're creating this app. And this app is actually, as of right now, it's kind of great. You know, if you're a local sports fan, I don't know how great it is because obviously you're still going to have something in order to be able, you know, to watch the Nuggets and the Avalanche regularly. But on the app, there's going to be the NBA game. So when the Nuggets are and the Avalanche, because they own the NHL rights as well, you're going to be able to see the Avs and the Nuggets on this app, but only when they're on ESPN. If you want to watch them regularly, you're going to have something else in addition to it. But if you're just like national sports, I'm good, right? Whatever ESPN's churning out inside the NBA is going to be on, so I don't have a reason to have TNT anymore. So I get the inside the NBA guys. I get NBA games. I get NHL games. I'm going to get the NFL. 3 more NFL games are going to be on ESPN because of this. Obviously, they have the rights to Monday Night Football. And if you happen to like their daytime programming, that's all going to be on there. So really right now, I look at this ESPN app and say, this is a pretty good deal. I like it. It doesn't go far enough for me in my needs, but I could see for a lot of people why this would be a good thing. And people that are like, I don't need Entertainment Television or Oxygen or Comedy Central or CNN or any of these other things. I just give me my ESPN, $30 a month. You're locked and loaded. But when next year rolls around and NFL Red Zone isn't included with this app, are you going to go, well, now I just got to get cable again, or I'm going to have to have NFL Plus or whatever it is that NFL Red Zone now streams on? So really, I look at this and I say, if you currently pay for quote unquote cable and have ESPN, I think this announcement is really good news. You're going to have Red Zone in a year. If you're a WWE fan, you're going to be able to get, WrestleMania and the Royal Rumble on ESPN. You get Inside the NBA now on ESPN. So I think the group of people that should be most excited about what ESPN has done in the last 24 to 48 hours are people that actually pay for cable, which I am one of. But if you're someone that's looking to cut the cord as much as possible, and maximize the money that you're willing to spend, this ESPN direct-to-consumer app is going to be good. But if you're missing out on Red Zone because it's on NFL Plus's app, you're still going to be adding to it. And I think that's probably the big takeaway in all of this is there may never come a day where you can have just one provider without sacrificing. Right? Even with the NFL, even if you want to watch everything that the NFL has and you have cable, you can't even get it all. What about Thursday Night Football? That's on Amazon. What about the games that Netflix has? So there's, as much as we wanted this to happen, it's never going to be, we're always going to seemingly have to layer multiple streaming providers or cable on top of each other to be able to consume everything that we want to consume. And it, brings up the question, why did we even go the cord cutting route? Anyway, because even if I want to go a la carte, I add everything up and it still costs me as much as cable used to. And you're on to something, because you think they were going to go this route and do all of this stuff and lose money? No, it's a false choice. You think by cutting cable and going a la carte and saying, I just want this streaming provider, that you're ultimately going to save a ton of money. I would say if you're a sports fan, that's crazy. If you just like watching the Great British Bake Off and, Ozark, and that's all you like, then you're saving money because now you don't have to pay for ESPN. But if you're a sports fan, you're paying for ESPN and you're paying for whatever else to make sure you can watch every NFL game. So Amazon and Netflix, and then you need some kind of a cable service or altitude streaming platform in order to watch the Nuggets and the Avalanche. If you're a Rockies fan, you got to find something. So it's interesting. If you're a sports fan and a cord cutter, you're not accomplishing, I think, what you think you are going to accomplish. But if you're a fan of reality television and you're a cord cutter, you might be saving a lot of money. So Red Zone, NFL Network will be part of ESPN next year. This app is available soon, and then we'll find out if NFL Red Zone is going to be on that app as we get closer to next football season. And then if you're a fan of the WWE, SmackDown and Raw, you still got to find somewhere else. ESPN does not have that. But if you just want the premium events, the pay-per-views, the WrestleManias, the Royal Rumbles, those will be on ESPN as well. And you can see the synergy when they have Pat McAfee on that network. 719-247-1313. In addition to, some of the new programming that will probably pop up regarding both of those, the NFL and WWE, that ESPN will produce. Also, if you're a WWE fan, I had to really dive in deep to do the research because I don't watch anymore. No WWE library access for ESPN. I think that's a big deal, right? The WWE Classic, ESPN doesn't have the rights to that. 719-247-1313. Coming up next, the Rockies may not be back, but Coors Field is. I'll explain next on Extra Sports 1300. Plenty of good seats still available at Coors Field today. I am currently watching the Rockies wrap up their series with the Toronto Blue Jays, and they're losing, and they are losing 12-1. 12-1. The Rockies are down to the Toronto Blue Jays in the bottom of the 8th inning. And this week, just the month of August, perhaps it's the heat, Coors Field has made a resurgence. Here's what the last two series have looked like for the Colorado Rockies. In game one of their series against the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Rockies trailed 9-0 going into the bottom of the first inning. They would eventually win the game 17-16 thanks to Brenton Doyle's walk-off home run. Saturday, if you're a Rockies fan, you had to think, I'll enjoy Friday night because I know Saturday night, no chance, right? Skeens on the hill, Livy Dunn in the stands. Rockies have no chance, right? Wrong. 6th inning rolls around. Paul Skeens is rolling. Jordan Beck hits a 3-run home run to get the Rockies going. And that marked the first time ever, I don't care how long Paul Skeens has been in the league, still the first time ever he has allowed a home run that was more than a solo or a 2-run shot. Think about that. Paul Skeens, still young in his MLB career. But he's not a rookie. This is not his first year. Think about how many innings he's thrown. He hasn't given up a 3-run home run or a grand slam in his career until Jordan Beck touched him up on Saturday at Coors Field. Rockies go on to win the game 8-5 and clinch one of their first series victories, their first home series victory of the year. We're in August. First series at Coors Field they've won. They're not going to win this series. Game one, Bo Bichette. Why the Rockies didn't do the same thing they just did with Ethan Holiday and draft Bo Bichette a few years ago, I will never understand. But Bo Bichette comes in, hits 2 home runs, drives in 6 runs. Toronto gets 25 total hits, and they win 15-1. Last night, it was Dalton Varsho who had 2 home runs and 6 RBIs. Rockies lose again, 10-4. Here we are today, 2 outs, bottom of the 8th inning. Rockies down 12-1. In summation, Coors Field is back. Wild games, crazy comebacks, tons of runs scored. Yeah, it doesn't always favor the home side, but it never did. Right? Even when the Rockies were decent, Coors Field would work against them. It's kind of the whole thing with the Colorado Rockies is that they actually don't have a home field advantage because they hate playing at Coors Field as much as any visitor does. So if you're just a fan, if you're going to Coors Field just to be entertained, you have been entertained over the last week. If you're going in hoping that rooting for the home team, it has not been fun. And if you are somebody who is rooting against the home team, you may not be totally thrilled either. Over the last week, that's fine. But I regret to inform you that right now the Rockies are off the pace of having a worse record than last year's White Sox. Now they'll pick up an L today. But right now, they're on pace to finish with 43 wins. The White Sox last year had 41. And if the Rockies aren't going to make history, what was the point of all of this? What's the point of this Rocky season if they're not going to make a bit of history here? And I will tell you, there's no point. So they got to find this pace. As fun as Friday night was, as fun as it probably was to watch the Rockies beat Paul Skeens, one of the most unbeatable pitchers in Major League Baseball, although he is very beatable if you really think about it, because the Pirates are objectively terrible. And so Paul Skeens, despite being dominant, can't pick up wins. Another reason why pitching wins should not be a thing. They knocked around Paul Skeens a little bit. They had that great comeback on Friday night. But then you look up and you say, what was that worth if the Rockies are now going to be off the pace for having the worst record in modern Major League Baseball history? Oh, we got a position player on the mound. Catcher Austin Nola is making his first career pitching appearance, and he just had a Toronto hitter lace one down the left field line for a double to open up the ninth. Coors Field's back. If you're just going to watch like pseudo baseball, doesn't feel real, feels like a circus, get your tickets now, because you've had a lot of it recently between this Pirates and Blue Jays series. So Austin Nola on his first ever appearance. And now he's facing Vladdy Jr. Oh! It looked like Vladdy was going to take Austin Nola yard. But because Nola... And I used to have this as a pitcher. If you throw it so slow, even if a hitter absolutely destroys the baseball, it may not go out. And that's just what happened with Vlad Guerrero Jr. He absolutely crushed a pitch from Austin Nola, and it landed not even to the warning track. Now it was a double, and the Blue Jays are now up 13-1, but it did not go out. And I would have sworn, looking at Vlad swing that bat, that it was leaving. And now Bo Bichette's up. And he just put one in the gap. 14-1 Blue Jays. Am I a bad person because of the way I am reacting to this? Thinking about that. No, I'm not, because it has nothing to do with the players. I do feel kind of bad for Austin Nola. I do. He's being thrown out there to the Wolves and having to pitch to Vlad Jr. and Bo Bichette, who are a part of, by the way, one of the hottest teams in Major League Baseball right now. It's not about them, and they have to understand that. What we are relishing, what we are rooting for, has nothing to do with them. It has to do with the guy that signs their paychecks, as the Blue Jays get another extra base hit and are now, Bo Bichette couldn't score from second base. Do better, Bo. That one wasn't going to be caught. Should have been running the whole time. Now runners on second and third with nobody out. Rockies may not. This show might be over before this ninth inning is over. I'll keep you updated. So if the Rockies aren't going to remain on the pace to be the worst team in the history of baseball, or modern baseball. What are you getting out of this season? Well, if you hate the Yankees, maybe you could credit the Colorado Rockies a little bit here because they dealt Jake Bird to the Yankees, and he has a 27 ERA for the Yankees, who continue to absolutely crater. Now, I don't pretend that I'm locked in night and night out in baseball, but what I've noticed from the Rockies yesterday or over the last week and what the Yankees are doing has caught my attention. And I have been following those stories. The Yankees are absolutely cratering. And the simple fact that they turned to the Rockies for bullpen help tells you how desperate things have gotten in the Bronx. I don't care what Jake Bird's numbers are. You think the Rockies figured out a bullpen arm? So maybe you could take a little bit of solace in that if you hate the Yankees, that the Rockies are playing some small part in the Yankees completely collapsing in on themselves. It's crazy what's happening with New York right now. They might miss the playoffs entirely 1 year after going to the World Series. But the problems that plagued them in the World Series are still plaguing them. That's the problem. They haven't fixed the issues from what cost them against the Dodgers. Rockies down 16-1. Austin Nola has settled down, gotten a couple of outs. He may escape this inning after all. 719-247-1313. Coming up next, it's the first depth chart of the season for the Denver Broncos and why only one rookie has a starting gig. Welcome in. Thanks for watching on Extra Sports 1300 on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Or if you're listening through the more traditional means, I don't care how you get here. I just care that you're here, and I appreciate that you're here. What a wild ride the top of the ninth inning was at Coors. Austin Nola finally gets Vlad Guerrero Jr. to pop out. And if you were listening in the last segment, you go, wait a minute. You said Vlad Guerrero doubled in a run. Yeah, the Blue Jays batted around. The Blue Jays, who were up 12-1 going to the ninth, built a snowman on Austin Nola. They put up 8 runs. Here's how the ninth inning went for the Toronto Blue Jays. It started with Clement doubling to left. So it was a double, 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 sac fly, single, single, homer, pop out. Thus went the pitching debut of Austin Nola, normally a catcher for the Colorado Rockies. He finishes with an ERA of 72. That's not going to get him into Cooperstown. Rockies batting bottom of the ninth in what has been a very Coors Field-like week, down 20-1. And like I said, it's not about the players. And this text, I think, encapsulates it perfectly from the 303. Monfort is a POA. That's who this is all about. This is not about the players. I feel bad for Austin Nola and everybody on the Colorado Rockies. It's not their fault. They shouldn't be relied on to win at the major league level. That's really the issue here. We're not blaming the kids. We're blaming the parents. That's the situation with the Colorado Rockies. Very different world just down the street, so to speak, with the Denver Broncos, as everybody loves the kids and the parents. Everything is going great. Got a joint practice with the Niners tomorrow, preseason opener on Saturday, and they continue to be talked about as the darlings of the National Football League at a national level. Today, they released their first depth chart, and something is very interesting about this. Only one rookie has a starting gig right now. And it is the guy I told you would be the most impactful Broncos rookie, Jeremy Crawshaw, punter. But the reason why Jeremy Crawshaw is the only rookie with a starting gig on the Denver Broncos right now is because he is the only player at his position on the Denver Broncos. Because if there was any other, it doesn't matter if it was you or me, that was the other punter in Broncos camp, we would be listed ahead of Jeremy Crawshaw on the depth chart. I'm actually surprised that Sean Payton, who feels like he has to do stuff like this, did not bring in a punter just for the week so he could put Jeremy Crawshaw as the backup punter. Because the reason why Crawshaw is the only Bronco rookie that is on the top line of the depth chart is because Sean Payton artificially puts the rookies at the bottom of their respective position. And that's the thing that sticks out when you first look at it, right? Running back depth chart. Dobbins, McLaughlin, Estime, Beatty, Watson, Harvey. R.J. Harvey is 6th on the depth chart. Who else here? Where's the other wide receiver? There it is. Sutton, Vele, Sherfield, Bryant. Bryant is 4th. And that's just at his wide receiver position. That's not even accounting for the fact that there are 2 wide receiver depth charts. And that has Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, Michael Bandy, and then rookie Joaquin Davis, who I mentioned this a few weeks ago. Watch out for Joaquin Davis. If you're looking for one of those undrafted guys to maybe make the roster, Joaquin Davis. He's a speedster, special teams guy. He could play as a gunner. He might make the roster. And he might flash a little bit playing at the wide receiver position with his speed. So just something to look out for Saturday and beyond in the Broncos preseason. But Sean Payton does this. He puts all the rookies as low as he possibly can to teach them a lesson. Now, it's to motivate them and tell them that you have not earned anything. When you earn something, I will move you up the depth chart. Which is fine. Like, part of me says, do you really have to do this to make this point? Like, we're not going to look at this and actually, believe that Pat Bryant is getting less of a shot than Trent Sherfield, or that RJ Harvey really right now is the 6th running back. Do you think RJ Harvey's like, oh my God, I'm the 6th running back on the depth chart? So I don't know how effective all of this is. Would egos really get, especially with this group? Right? Because even the rookie that you probably feel the best about maybe is Jahdae Barron. You don't want him to be a starter at corner. I mean, or at least in the pecking order. It's like, no, Surtain, Riley Moss. RJ Harvey, I don't think is going to be the starting running back. So it's not like I foresee any of these rookies actually being top of the depth chart. Maybe Barron, just because they list 3 separate lines of corners. But I don't know that any of them would, if Sean Payton were honest and were telling the truth with this, when it comes to his rookies anyway, with the depth chart, that we would think any rookie's ego would get out of control because they're, Jahdae Barron might be the 3rd corner and RJ Harvey might be the 2nd running back. But Sean Payton does this. They got to earn it. That's fine. Whatever. Here's what is interesting and real. Okay, the stuff with the rookies, that's not real. That's just Sean Payton trying to continuously motivate his young players. Notice the way the rest of the running back depth chart goes. Dobbins, McLaughlin, Estime. If we know, because we do, that RJ Harvey is not going to be the 6th running back, and given that the Broncos think so highly of RJ Harvey and forsaked other more talented running backs because they felt like they could still get RJ Harvey later, what this is shaping up to be is what I said last week. Audric Estime has some work to do, because we know that RJ Harvey is going to slot in above him, unless RJ Harvey absolutely has a dreadful training camp, which, if you follow the reporting that's going on, nobody is having a bad training camp. Everybody is awesome and the best ever to do what they have done, what they are doing. But I think RJ Harvey is going to be up there, 3rd, 2nd, when the regular season rolls around. I'm telling you, Audric Estime is going to be the odd man out. in this running back room. J.K. Dobbins was brought in for a reason. That Sean Payton didn't want to leave things to chance. That's a common theme with him, right? Raising the floor. Bringing in J.K. Dobbins raises the floor of this running back room. And worse comes to worse, he's going to feed Dobbins. But then you go after that to Jaleel McLaughlin. If the Broncos are putting more of an emphasis on the outside run game and trying to get out to the edge, well, I would maybe other than Dobbins, or Dobbins is probably one of them, but Jaleel McLaughlin's probably the best at that. And he brings a skill set that is unique to that running back room. Now, you can't use him too much. The pitch count's got to be in the right place with him. But I think some of the ideas that the Broncos seem to have offensively benefit Jaleel McLaughlin. So then ultimately it comes down to Audric Estime, drafted later than R.J. Harvey was in his respective draft. A guy that, when he got his opportunity last year, coughed up the football. He would not, the way he performed in his rookie year, that algorithm that Sean Payton has concocted for quarterbacks would not reflect favorably on Audric Estime. So this is a guy that disappointed in many ways, putting the ball on the turf when he did get an opportunity. And then the Broncos went out and used maybe not a premium draft pick or the best draft pick that they had, but they used a higher draft pick and a day 2 pick to bring in R.J. Harvey, who Sean Payton has raved about. So there is no Broncos player on this depth chart where the conversation around them has flipped as drastically as Audric Estime. Because going into the offseason, it was, Estime, watch out, Estime breakout season. Estime's going to get his chance. And now all of a sudden, his room is very crowded. They're putting an emphasis on a style of running game that I don't think necessarily fits his skill set. And the first depth chart that comes out, he's not a rookie, right? So he's not being buried. Right now, J.K. Dobbins and Jaleel McLaughlin are ahead of him. Could it be a motivational tactic from Sean Payton for Audric Estime, even though he's not a rookie? Maybe. But why would he need to motivate him if he's happy with what he's seen from Audric Estime? If he's not a rookie and Sean Payton likes what he sees, then why would he be in need of this tactic of, I'm going to move you down on the depth chart? If you want to look at this depth chart and find out what's real, I think those 3 running backs, that's real. That's the real order. And once R.J. Harvey pays his dues, earns his wings, whatever it is that Sean Payton is waiting for before he, dubs R.J. Harvey not the automatically last guy on the depth chart, I think you're going to look at Audric Estime and go, how are they going to get that guy touches? Because Sean Payton has talked about how difficult it is to get 3 running backs touches. And Audric Estime might be guy number 4. Take your thoughts. 719-247-1313. One other note I think worth mentioning from a local perspective. Jordan Jackson, former Air Force Falcon, is behind Zach Allen on one side, one defensive end spot. Of course, John Franklin Myers and Allen are the starters, and Jordan Jackson's going up against the likes of Matt Henningsen, friend of the program, Ioma Uruzarike, the guy who was suspended for an entire year, and then two rookies, including Savion Jones, out of LSU. So Jordan Jackson in a good spot. I think I take Jackson over Uruzarike, but I do think that the Broncos might have some in Savion Jones. So we'll see how that all shakes out. Everything else makes sense. Nothing shocking with the Broncos' first depth chart of the offseason. Take your thoughts on it. 719-247-1313. More Drive Time Sports after this. Broncos' first depth chart of the season, or the preseason, is out. Your thoughts, welcome at 719-247-1313. This one coming in from Jeff in the 719. Audric Estime, still 21 years old. In year 2, he's still the youngest guy on the team. He needs to grow up. He'll make the team and will contribute at some point. I actually don't disagree with any of that. I don't. I'm not talking about Audric Estime being the odd man out like he's going to get cut. I'm saying he's going to be the odd man out when it comes to making an impact this season. And I know people got all excited about, Blake Watson and some of these other guys that they brought up later last season from the practice squad. I'm not a believer in those guys. You could go with Dobbins, McLaughlin, Estime, and RJ Harvey as your running backs and be good to go. I don't think you need to bring in anybody else. This is not about Audric Estime getting cut. This is just about Audric Estime, who many, and I think Sean Payton fed into this a little bit by talking so highly of him, thought that this would be a year where Audric Estime would take a step forward. That would be a bigger part of what the Broncos do. And all signs are pointing to it won't be. This isn't meaning that he'll, never do anything for the Denver Broncos. But this year, it sure doesn't look like he's going to be a part of what they're doing. But, J.K. Dobbins feels like a one-year thing. And then next year, if he does what Sean Payton asked him to do with RJ Harvey and Jaleel McLaughlin, there you go. Now he's in that mix. So this is not, I'm not writing off Audric Estime forever. I'm starting to write off Audric Estime for this season. And let's be honest about this too, because here's the thing I'll keep going back to with Pat Bryant. But Troy Franklin's another good example. Like, what are you legitimately expecting these people to do? I know George Payton has had a good track record of finding guys later in the draft, and I give him credit for that. But do you think that the Broncos are just going to keep hitting on these guys forever? I think if you get anyone that contributes to your team that was drafted really the 4th round or later, then you should take that as an added bonus, as found money, and look at Jonathan Cooper. That's the best example of that. But even some of the other ones, where's Baron Browning now? Baron Browning's not there anymore. So, the talk of last year, and I know what it was because Troy Franklin and Bo Nix know each other. They were teammates. It's an easy couple of dots to connect here. What did Troy Franklin do last year? He caught that one pass in the game against the Bills. That was about it. People are making Pat Bryant out to be, the impact. Like, everybody's trying to, move down Devon Vele. And said, well, Troy Franklin, well, Pat Bryant. But Vele was this guy last year. Reasonable expectations for someone taken on day 3 of an NFL draft. And Audric Estime is one of those guys. What was the expectation that he would be? Like a bell cow number 1 running back? No. But whatever he was supposed to be for the Denver Broncos going into the season doesn't look like it's going to be that way because they drafted RJ Harvey. and they brought in J.K. Dobbins. So you make a great point, Jeff. I'm not saying that Audric Estime is going to get cut. I'm just saying it doesn't look like he's going to be a contributor to the Denver Broncos in 2025. Brett, don't bring it into day two. Brett asking where LeBron is on the depth chart. Don't do it. He's at the top. He's ahead of Bo Nix because Sean Payton plugged LeBron James's numbers into his algorithm and found out, you know what? LeBron James in college did not throw any interceptions. He did not fumble the ball or get sacked once. He has a perfect score. I want him to be my quarterback. Speaking of, I found this weird. I don't know if you looked into it like I did. You probably didn't because you have a life, and that's fine. I would like to know what that's like, but you could tell me that on the text line. I'm looking at the numbers because I'm going through and doing that algorithm that Sean Payton has just to kind of see where some of the other quarterbacks, because we heard about this year's quarterbacks and Patrick Mahomes, but we didn't hear about these other ones. So I was curious, and I'll give you my findings if you did not hear coming up at the top of the hour. But I noticed that the numbers in Seth Wickersham's ESPN.com piece, they don't add up. Bo Nix, what do you have Bo Nix listed at? 800 and almost 900 snaps? The guy played more college football than any human being has ever done. He had well over that. Now, look, Bo Nix's numbers aren't adding up. And then I looked, basically comparing him and Mahomes. It took all of Mahomes' career at Texas Tech and only Bo Nix's Oregon career, which was weird to me. Why would you do that? And I looked at the other quarterbacks in this year's draft that Seth Wickersham put in the ESPN article. Drake May had the 10 attempts he made his first year at North Carolina weren't factored in. It was only the last 2 years at North Carolina. So then I thought, well, is he just taking the last 2 years? No, because he took all 3 years of Mahomes. And then Caleb Williams, I don't know that even if you just take him at USC, his total number of dropbacks doesn't match what's in the ESPN.com piece. So I'm like, so either, I mean, it has to be that Sean Payton is qualifying these numbers. Because we all know that Bo Nix had two very different careers. Right? Oregon, he was a changed quarterback for the better. So if you just want to take his years at Oregon because Auburn was a disaster, or you didn't feel like he was coached up right, or whatever the reason, fine. But then why isn't the first season that Drake May appeared at North Carolina work? Okay, well, he wasn't the starter. All right. Well, where are you getting the Caleb Williams numbers from? Why are you taking all 3 years of Patrick Mahomes? So I found that bizarre. The numbers aren't adding up. So it would appear that Sean Payton, before he runs these numbers through his algorithm, is saying, I don't need these 10 passes Drake May threw his first year at North Carolina, or I don't need any of Bo Nix's numbers from Auburn. which is he accomplishing the right goal if he's doing that? What I went through last night, I took their entire career for better or worse. And guess what? Bo Nix came out on top. I found that very weird. Go and look for it if you are all alone and you absolutely have nothing else to do. Look at the number of snaps for Caleb Williams. In fact, I'll do that here in a little bit. Refresh my memory. I can't get to that math. That it doesn't match up with his career, and it doesn't match up with even his time at USC. So I wonder if, I mean, forget the bigger point of all of it, which is, does this actually predict NFL success? Which the answer is no. But is he even doing the math right? Where are these numbers coming from? Talk more about that at the top of the hour. 719-247-1313. More Drive Time Sports after this. 719-247-1313. That is the text line if you'd like to get involved. This coming in from the 719. Sean Payton knows he's wrong on picking Bo Nix, and he's trying to defend his decision on picking him. That's coming from Eric. I disagree, and I'll tell you why. I don't think that Sean Payton believes he's wrong on picking Bo Nix. The complete opposite. I think he feels like he got one over on everyone. He's the cat that ate the canary. He's the guy with the smug look on his face saying, I knew it and none of you did. He is supremely confident in his pick of Bo Nix. The issue is twofold. One is that people are taking Sean Payton's feeling about Bo Nix as 1,000% true because what he did math. Like, that's people reacting to this and they're like, well, we came up with this algorithm to decide that Bo Nix and Bo Nix has better metrics than Patrick Mahomes, which of course is catnip to Broncos fans. That Bo Nix has something on Patrick Mahomes, even if it is a completely made up algorithm by Sean Payton. What the issue is twofold here. One issue is that nobody seems to be looking at this and going, wait a minute. We're going to take Sean Payton's word because he did math on that Bo Nix is going to be one of the 4 or 5 best quarterbacks in the league. Because the bigger issue is the fact that if you take the quarterbacks coming out of college the last 10 years, even though Bo Nix does rank very well, the group that was the worst, I'll give you the worst guy of the first round quarterbacks taken in the last 10 years. The guy who would flunk Sean Payton's algorithm is Lamar Jackson. So you tell me how right this algorithm is, how predictive this algorithm is when it comes to evaluating quarterbacks. I'm not saying that what Sean Payton is valuing in Bo Nix isn't important. Decision-making, limiting sacks, interceptions, all this kind of stuff, very important. But my big thing is he hasn't figured it out. He just figured out what he likes, and everything he has done in Denver is what he wants to do. And he decided that when he was coming back to the NFL, that I'm going to do things my way. I'm going to have my players. I'm not going to care what the guys I inherit are being paid, Russell Wilson. If they don't fit what I want to do, they're gone. So he merely identified, he put a number to a skill set that he values more than anything else, which is fine. But it doesn't mean you need to go above and beyond and say that because it's numbers and not opinion, that somehow it's fact-based. Because recent history actually says that Sean Payton's algorithm is not predictive of NFL success. The guys that score the best in it actually stink in the NFL. But I'm not saying what he's looking for is wrong though. But I have a problem with it being held up as like the next Moneyball here. I think Sean Payton is supremely confident in his pick of Bo Nix. But I am telling you that when it comes down to it, the best quarterbacks in this league right now They're not super risk adverse. They do take risks. They do make mistakes, but they also make huge plays, and that's what wins you football games at the highest level, right? That's what gets you to AFC championships. That's what gets you to Super Bowls. So I think there is a flaw in this thought process, or at least this being the be-all, end-all is problematic. Bo Nix is still going to have to be able to do something that Sean Payton isn't whispering in his ear. He's going to have to use his genetic ability to win football games. He's going to have to be able to go off script. And I didn't expect him to do it a ton his rookie year. But he's going to have to be moving forward if he's going to become a quarterback that the Broncos can win the Super Bowl with. It's one piece to the puzzle, and it's being held up like this is the be-all, end-all. And it's like, no, actually the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now don't score that well. Lamar, Josh Allen. But he is, the one thing that you and I agree on a little bit, Eric, here, is that he is using this, he is weaponizing this, because clearly he knew he was going to take Bo Nix. Clearly he knew that. Or at least that is the story he continues to put out there. He's going to take Bo Nix. There's a line from Seth Wickersham's reporting where he says, I'm going to take crap, or I'm going to get heat, get criticized, whatever it may be, for taking him 12th. I don't give a bleep. So clearly he believes in what he's doing, but he's also using this, weaponizing this to get people to agree with him. I did math. Love Bo Nix like I love Bo Nix. And I'm not going to be the person that completely falls for it. What he's looking for is important. Processing speed is important. But just to simply say the guy who's best at that is going to be one of the 4 or 5 best quarterbacks in the league, it's not going to be the case. There are other pieces to the puzzle. Get back into that in just a little bit. So this, a thing happened again last night in the WNBA.
Oh, look out. Something just came onto the floor. Got an object that just flew in as the free throw was being made. And it looked like that hit a player too.
I think you might be able to guess, if you have been consuming the news of late, what that object was. And it did hit a player. It hit Sophie Cunningham of the Indiana Fever, who just a few days ago tweeted out, please stop throwing these objects. You're going to hurt one of us. And she was the one hit last night in the LA-Indiana game. Obviously, this is incredibly unacceptable. And anybody who's doing this is gross and sophomoric and should be punished to the fullest extent of the law. Not all the law, but, within reason. But think about it. Would this happen in the NBA? No. No, it would not. And I think it is somewhat, I'm not excusing that behavior. It's pathetic behavior. It's criminal behavior is what it is. But it is emblematic of a league that is just completely in disarray right now. You have, and there's this DeWanna Bonner thing. So if you didn't see it, DeWanna Bonner was a significant signing by the Indiana Fever this offseason. She decided at some point she didn't want to play for them and just refused to play. And Indiana released her. She goes to Phoenix, where I believe her significant other plays, which all of that up until that point is allowed. Right? We see people hold out. They force trades, whatever. In this case, she was released. When she's released, she's free to go wherever she wants. That's not the issue. The issue is that, one, she refused to play for the team. The Indiana Fever refused. And the kicker is she came back to Indiana as a member of the Mercury. She was booed. And who do you think was criticized in the WNBA sphere? It wasn't DeWanna Bonner. It was the Fever fan base. People complaining that they're not respecting DeWanna Bonner by booing her. It's like they don't even understand how sports works sometimes. The people that cover this league, the people that are involved in this league, which is insane because they're a sport. They should know how sports work. Indiana should boo DeWanna Bonner. If this was the NBA, and this is relevant because the WNBA players, not saying they want to be paid like NBA players, but they had those shirts on during the All-Star game. Pay us what you owe us, which I pointed out was problematic the way they phrased that, because what does the league owe? It's more what you deserve based on what you're doing for the league. It's not like back pay. But you're doing this thing because you're getting ready to get into a labor fight that's going to start with there's going to be a work stoppage. There's going to be a labor stoppage. There will be. Okay? So you're going this fighting for more money, which legitimizes, right? Where you're a legitimate league, you're legitimate athletes, you deserve to be compensated in that way. I have no issue whatsoever. I am on their side in their thought process, right? Look at the expansion fees that have been paid. Look at the television deal, right? That is revenue for the league that WNBA players help generate. So I think they have a case to be paid more, not paid like NBA players, but paid more. But they want to be compensated as if they are a legitimate league, because now more than ever they are legitimate in terms of their popularity, TV ratings, attendance, all that kind of stuff. But then you get angry when a fan base acts how fan bases act in every other sport. We boo athletes for less than refusing to play for our favorite team and coming back as an opponent. We boo guys for less than that. And it's booing. No one threw an object at DeWanna Bonner. They just booed her in Indiana. They have every reason to do that. We do that in every league. And it's just like every single day there is another thing that's like you want to be taken seriously. You want us to follow you and treat you like any of these other leagues. And we want to, but then you do these things where we're like, you're not serious. Now, the objects being thrown onto the court, that's not their fault. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's another thing going on in the W right now that's making it more reminiscent of a circus than a serious sports league. And I do think if people didn't look at the WNBA as a little bit of a clown show right now, would they feel emboldened to throw those kind of objects onto the court? You think that anybody's going to do that this weekend at an NFL game? It has to stop. And whoever's doing that needs to be arrested. But you add all of this up. Some of it is the fault of the league. Some of it is not. And you just go, it's a complete mess right now. And somebody has to get it under control, because now they're going into some real serious business, which is a labor negotiation. And I don't know that Kathy Engelbert's going to be on the other side of the table. I think it's going to be Adam Silver. As much as everybody wants Adam Silver to step in, and I'm one of those, step in and give some guidance to this league. I promise you he's going to step in and give guidance when it comes to how much money the players are going to get. It's just for every positive story, like the story of this WNBA season, unfortunately, is how unavailable Caitlin Clark has been and how much of a disappointment her sophomore season has been because of injuries. But there is a great story going on, and it's Paige Beckers. Paige Beckers is tearing up the league as a rookie. And that should be along with Caitlin Clark, because I'm not saying that we don't focus on the negative sometimes, but it should be Caitlin Clark. It's a bummer that she is hurt. But, I mean, look at how amazing Paige has been. But it's not. Paige has not really been a story. It's a page of objects being thrown on the court and fans being chastised because they have the unmitigated gall to boo a player that refused to play for their city and their team. It's like a lot of the reasons why the good in the WNBA gets buried is their own fault. The objects thing, not their fault, but it's just another thing that's just making it look like a clown show. And the athletes don't deserve that. The fans don't deserve that. The quality of the product is better than it ever has been. There are some legitimate stars in that league that are worth tuning in on a nightly basis, and yet this is all that catches people's attention. It's unfortunate, but the WNBA does a good job of diverting your attention away from what really matters as well. 719-247-1313. Coming up next, we'll hit the three stories that are driving the show here on Extra Sports 1300.